Episode number 38 of Making the Case. This is America. What last night election showed us about our country. Let's get it. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Making the Case. I am your host, Dr. Jacob Isom, educator, author, speaker, entrepreneur. I like to consider myself a philosopher, consultant, father, some of everything, right? So I got a very, very, very special episode for you. This episode kind of was impromptu. It wasn't really planned. But of course, due to last night's election, I just feel like it was a perfect time to address some things that kind of fit right into what was going on with last night election results, right? Due to the fact that, politics is such a hot topic issue. You can't run from it, right? Everything is political, and that's kind of what we're gonna get into with this episode. But of course, before I even go even deeper, we got to go over our two channel norms. Of course, one, we attack points and not people, and then two, we don't do all the cussing and all the craziness. We like to keep it very professional over here. And once again, going to get into that on today's episode because I really think the reason why because I had another topic that I wanted to do tonight, but of course we'll do that on our next video. I thought it was very important for us to address some things, right? And by the way, the title of this episode is This is America. What last night election showed us about ourselves, about our country, right? And of course, we've heard of the very popular song "This Is America" by Childish Gambino, right? Which had a lot of symbolism and had a lot of messages in that video and in that song, right? But what you saw last night, and full disclosure, full transparency, right? I'm an independent. I'm an independent when it comes to just about everything. I do not follow the modern institutions that we have nowadays. I think they're problematic. And I'm going to get into some of those reasons why I feel and think the way that I do. And what we have been witnessing for the last, I want to say the last 2-3 months has really been disturbing to me. But the reason why I titled This is America is this is the bed that we've made, right? We shouldn't be surprised about what we've seen, what we witnessed, what we've been going through, because this is what we created. Now, when I say we, of course, I'm talking about us as Americans. We know that people here have been disenfranchised, discriminated against, etc., right? So in today's episode, it's going to look a little bit different. I don't have the same pieces of evidence like I used to. I'm not going to pull up any videos, any articles. What we're going to do is we're going to have a straightforward conversation. I hope that's okay with you guys. Okay. But I thought it was very important for us to go over some things that people really aren't touching on and they're not connecting it. Because so with this episode, we're going to touch on a little bit of history and we're going to bring it back to modern times, right? So let's get into it. So this is going to be my opening statement, my closing statement, and my evidence in between. All right. So just bear with me because I'm going to kind of be all over the place or it's going to appear that way. But just bear with me because I'm going to make sure that it's connect for you. All right. If you see me rocking and twisting, I'm just in my zone and I'm just getting comfortable. Okay. If that's all right with you. Now, so there are four things that have always been connected to the United States of America, right? And even though I'm speaking of the United States of America, I mean, we can say globally, right? But in particular, I'm speaking on our country because our country has a very unique history, right? The way that we began, the way we kind of rose to the top and, dominated things. dominated the world stage, became the world power that we did. Like no other country really has that history, right? So we're unique in that sense. So from the very beginning of our country, which of course we like to credit in the beginning, early 1600s, but we know many people have been made trips over here to North America. We know the Africans have been here for a very long time. We know the Vikings came over and, things of that nature, right? But when we're talking about your Anglo-Saxons, right? Your Europeans who came over and created a government where certain races of people became the working class, all right? So before I move any forward, the four different aspects we're going to be talking about throughout this video is race, class, gender, religion, right? Those four aspects have always been huge part of our identity as Americans, right? As people that inhabited in this land who have a collective identity. Those four factors, whether positively or negatively, and many will argue, and even probably myself would, it's impacted us more negatively than it has positively. All right. So when we look at those four aspects, and I'll repeat them again: race, gender, religion, and class. When we look at those four different aspects, they always seep their way into our lived reality, right? We can't go a day without thinking about how things impact us racially. We can't go a day without thinking or realizing that our gender impacts how people view us. We can't go a day where money is not being involved in where we are on the hierarchy as far as our class is concerned. And although religion has taken a back seat, I want to say, and when I say taking a back seat, I'm talking about is not as in the forefront as it used to be, right? And this is where we're going to backtrack, right? When we look at the history of our country, we know that one of the main reasons, it was two main reasons we settled this country. Of course, money is always going to be a top priority, right? Your European countries coming over here for resources, for trade routes, and things of that nature, right? Gold, silver, minerals. So that's your number one reason. But the second biggest was religion. People wanted religious freedom because in the old countries, and I'm talking about Spain, France, Germany, and things of that nature, right? People were getting persecuted because of their belief system. So people fled to the United States of America, which of course wasn't the United States of America at the time, in order to gain their religious freedom, in order to worship freely, right? So religion has always been the bedrock of this country, right? And even when we got out of this country and you had different pockets that are selling the 13 colonies, right? Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, people spread out and doing their different things. But religion was crucial. How people thought, their belief system, their value systems was important. And yes, if you didn't rock with the way that religious system was going, you had to go. You got banished. That started, of course, once we came up with our government, freedom of religion, freedom of speech. That's why that's in the First Amendment. Okay. So religion has always been crucial. Now, with the religious aspect, as I mentioned, money is always going to be there. So eventually people started separating themselves based off of money. And then we saw the evolution of class, right? We know that it was people up here that had the knowledge and the money, and it was people down here that had working mentality and they had a skill set, but they didn't have the money and the information. Okay. So as years and decades go by and centuries go by, we start distinguishing people amongst their earning potential. We understand that gender has always been a huge issue, right? Women had their role, men had their role, and for a very long time, we was okay with it. Everything was all right. Now, was it exploitative? Yes. Was it unfair? Yes. So when women got together collectively, when women started seeing the pain and the trauma and the different things that men were doing and taking advantage, that's when they rose up and started speaking out, gained more rights. All right. So when we look at our history of the United States of America, what we see is we see struggle, we see pain, we see bondage, we see people fighting for their civil rights, we see hierarchy, distinctions amongst people, we see belief systems and how those differ. So we got religion, we got class, we got gender, we got all those playing a factor and a role. Now look at us today. What is different about when we start this country until now? Other than, of course, modernism, consumerism, technology, right? Even though these things have been very great for us and have moved the needle, it has caused us to even double down, triple down on how we look at people, gender-wise, class-wise, religious-wise, and racially. We've always distinguished each other. We've always said somebody is not smarter than another race, or this race is supposed to be doing this, right? When we look at the history, the foundation, the making of this country, see, we haven't become this. We are this. So when we look at the results of the election, right? And I'm hearing all this propaganda, hearing all this sensationalism, all this yellow journalism. And by the way, if you don't know these terms, I'm going to give you a homework assignment. Please look these up on your own. Sensationalism, yellow journalism. Please look them up. You know what propaganda means, right? So when I'm hearing all this, and what people have to understand is there is going to be lies and sensationalism on both sides. And it's very disheartening when you hear all this rhetoric and you hearing all this negativity and how people are speaking to one another, how households were being torn apart between men and women because they was going to vote differently. You see, we're talking about politics, right? But race, religion, class, gender, they're all political, and they always have been. For a very long time, women didn't have any rights, political rights. When it came to marriage, no rights. This is politics. For a very long time, American Africans in this country, it was against the law for them to learn how to read, for them to gather in large groups. Jim Crow laws were passed in the South. This is political. As people started to rise, right, and make more money, certain things were happening to them. Discrimination when it comes to jobs and things of that nature. Political. But all of this has started at the beginning. And then we wonder why the election looked the way it did. The election of 1828 was called the dirtiest election ever. Andrew Jackson. So we talking history now. But you know why we keep repeating it? Because we don't understand how all these factors, see, we talk about how race this and race that, but we always bringing up race though. We talk about how we want to be judged by the content of our character, but we either bringing up race, religion, or gender. People, when it comes to the dating scene, kid you not, they are asking questions like, who are you voting for? They basing whether or not they're going to get along with somebody based off of who you voting for. They're basing their decision if they want to be with you based off what religion you believe in. And you know they're basing it off of how much money you have. This is America. We are entitled, spoiled brats who are racist, sexist, vindictive, classist, bigots, nativists, and the list goes on, right? This is America. And I hear people online today talking about, yeah, we had to get over this. We had to, people are crying and very upset. And I'm thinking, I understand that it's winners and losers, right? It was an election, right? Somebody had to win, somebody had to lose. But at the end of the day, when you woke up this morning, you went to that same job. You got up and ate the same cereal. So the fact that we've allowed this to get so ugly and nasty and be so divisive. But once again, this is America. We've always been a divisive country. Even when we look at the 13 colonies, there were 13 distinctive colonies, different religions, different economic plans, etc. The only reason why we came together united is because we had a common enemy. We started to fight a war. Guess what still happens to this day? Guess when we all Americans, when tragedy happens, when there's a war, when there's a natural disaster, when there's a school shooting, we Americans then. I believe that the United States of America has the tools, the framework to be a beacon of hope for many countries, if not all. But to say we're the greatest country to ever exist, that's more propaganda. When we understand the history, how can we say it's the greatest country, but still complain the way we do and act the way we do? I think we have the potential to be, but we've committed too many atrocities. We've done too much damage and too much dirt to just say we great because we got a lot of guns and a lot of money. And the money is a question mark because of the amount of debt that we in. This is America. So what you saw last night, when you looked at the map and saw that Donald Trump took both the popular and the electoral votes, that should have told us a lot. Say what you want to say, but people felt like there needed to be change because you can't keep spewing the same rhetoric over and over and then there not be no results and then think that people just gonna stick with you. Because to be honest with you, there was no great candidate. And to be honest with you, I'm looking for one in the future. Like what our system, political system, and what we have become socially, religiously, right? We're in some very trying times. Let me just say that. We understand that cash is king. We understand what technology has done. What was one of the main top 3 issues why people voted the way they did for Trump? The economy. People's pocketbooks are hurting. The border crisis, I would say also in the top 3. Because what you're not supposed to do, and I get it, we like to get in our feelings about things, right? But politics is what are your laws? What are your policies? What are you going to get done? I need to see results. But really, when we think about anything, it should be results driven, right? But particularly politics, if you're not getting it done, I need to get somebody in here that will and say what you want. People felt comfortable enough voting for Donald Trump again, seeing what he did his previous 4 years in office. They felt comfortable enough to vote for him again, and even more people. And a lot of people just thinking well, he's a racist, he's this, he a convicted felon, he this. Now, I agree. I think it's crazy that someone who had all those felonies could still run for president. I think that's crazy because we know if it was a black man or anybody of color, we already. But you see how I brought race into it? But the thing about it is that's what we've created. We can't act like that's not a reality though, right? But as long as we keep feeding into it, we ain't gonna never stop the show. Just like I heard somebody say, well, it's funny. She put it in a way to say it was cultural. I forget what she used. Essentially what she was trying to say is people didn't want to see a woman of color. Really what she was trying to say, people didn't want to see a woman. But I think that, once again, that plays a factor. Look at our gender relations since we started this country. Of course it played a huge factor. Race, religion, gender, class. We will all be affected by it. It's either going to benefit us in some cases or it's going to be a detriment in others. We all experience it daily in our lives. Daily. All of us. We can't escape it. This is America. This is what we created. And I don't see it changing for a very long time. So this is what we saw last night, right? And while people are upset and people feel like Donald Trump is going to come in and he going to kick everybody out and he going to rich people all these tax breaks. See, here's the issue. It's fear mongering is what it really is, right? It's all these fear-based things that people think is what's going to happen. But what these people on CNN and MSNBC and these other political pundits and these other people in politics are not telling you is that You as a citizen has the power. Voting is just a small bit of the power that you have as a United States citizen. It's the reason why you have the right to protest, right? You have the right to gather and sign a petition. You got initiatives, referendums. Once again, I'm going to give you a homework assignment. If you don't know what an initiative or referendum is, do your homework. Look that up for me. Because part of the problem when it comes to us as citizens is many of us are uninformed. So many of us went to vote for Kamala because she a woman. So many of us went to vote for Kamala because they think she a black woman or she at least a woman of color. So many of us went to vote because she's a Democrat. So many of us went to vote because they just don't like Trump. And then the last piece is they went to vote because of her policies. But you see, 4 out of 5 is a horrible reason for voting for somebody. We have to get engaged and involved in the political process. And voting is just a small slither. Because guess what? People are feeling real comfortable. Oh, I voted. Now I get to go back to life and just keep complaining. But if you really are dissatisfied with something that's going to come out, you have power as a collective to protest, to march, to get signatures, to voice your displeasure. But see, that takes time and money, though. Voting is for free. That's why people do it. That's why people push you to do it. And they know voting is the least of the things that you could really do. See, if Americans really put their foot to the ground, like what used to happen, when real change occurred, it was always grassroots movement. It was always people collecting, coming together, putting their heads together, and marching to the same beat of the drum. That's what got real things changed. But we're not pushing that now. But if you really want to voice your displeasure, you could do it in a legal manner based off the Constitution and our founding document. You can do that. But this is America. This is who we are. So either we can come together, stop being so negative, stop tearing down one another, which is supposed to be a religious society, but we so ugly. Look how we treat each other. Look how we talk to each other, whether it's online, in person. Look how we dog each other out. I'm surprised a lot of people are able to sleep at night. And I'm not perfect, but this is one of the reasons why I move the way I do. This is the reason why I don't curse on my channel. This is the reason why I don't attack people, because there's enough of that going on. I want to be a model for not only for my kids, but for everybody that watch me. I want you to watch and see what I do, because I can't say that I'm a man and I'm this and that, but I'm doing the opposite. But that's what you got going on now. You got people calling themselves feminine and women, masculine and men, but they doing the very opposite of what they teaching. You got people who are willing to sit in front of a camera on national television, on YouTube or what have you, on social media, and tell you one thing, but they doing something different. Integrity is everything. Your word is bond. So guess what? I am America too. This is America. We have this in us, but we ain't gonna be able to get anywhere if we keep treating each other the way we do. If we keep looking down on people because they don't make as much money. If we keep shunning people because they don't believe the way we do. If we look at somebody differently because they have a different pigmentation. If we don't understand the fact that men need women and women need men. But we keep saying we are this, we that. We Americans, we love each other. We got to show that. Last night election, the finality of it showed that you better start listening to the majority of people and what they want. And as long as we continue to attack each other and be divided over gender, race, politics, religion, and we keep being driven by materials, consumerism, nothing is going to change. Nothing. All right, man. Excuse me. I just wanted to come on and, speak about last night's election. It kind of related to what I think are the bigger issues that are going on. Because, we can keep talking about, the border crisis and economy and this and that. But really what we should be talking about is how are we treating each other? How do we look at each other? because we're not addressing the root problem. We want to keep talking about the surface. But the root of the problem is you think you better than me. That's the root of the problem. And if you have this type of thinking, how are we ever going to move forward? If in the back of your mind, you don't even think we equals because of my race, because of my gender, because of how much money I make and my different beliefs. How can we ever move forward if that's our mentality? And that is political as well, but it's a mindset. All right. All right, man. I talked y'all ear off enough, man. Hey, appreciate y'all for listening, man. Rocking with me. We're going to get back to our regularly scheduled Making the Case episodes on our next episode. Of course, I got another great topic for you. But, man, thank you for rocking with me. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell so you know when new videos drop. Book and merch links will be in the description as always, as well as my Cash App if you want to help donate to the channel. I would appreciate it. And as always, I'm you, you're me. Love always, love eternal. The worst thing you can do is lie to yourself. And even though this was kind of not making the case, I still made a case. All right. So, hey, deuces. Love y'all.